We weren't looking for a property. I had been surfing the net and having a look at houses, and there was a nice house down the road that I really liked.
Yeah, so you really fell in love with the property first, didn't you?
Yeah. We were busy, really busy. We weren't ready to sell a house, we weren't ready to buy a house, but we put an offer in and bought a house.
Yeah, so I was pretty sceptical as to whether we'd be able to, get our house on the market and ready for sale and be able to buy the house that we'd fallen in love with.
Yeah, the house wasn't ready. We had a lot of stuff we needed to do to get it ready to get sold, so there was a lot to be done. We were very unprepared to sell a house. It wasn't planned.
Well, I think what was really useful was to get that independent advice as to what we needed to do and what things, or equally important, what things we didn't really need to do in terms of getting it ready to sell.
Peter and Grant also had a lot of contacts, so where we didn't have tradespeople that we could rely on that we knew were okay, they had plenty of contacts that we could use.
So we really tapped into Peter and Grant's sort of business ecosystem that they had. So given that it was a really short time frame that we wanted to get our house ready and put on the market, there was quite a lot that we had to do in order to get it done. I think also what was useful was that Peter and Grant helped prepare a project schedule for us. So obviously there was quite a sequence of things that we had to get done in terms of just some basic maintenance plus tidying up the outside of the house and things like that. So it was good to have that schedule just to help us relax that it was going to be possible firstly, but then also just to make sure that we kept on track in terms of getting it ready.
And it helped it not prolong it either. Like, it was 4 weeks for us for some quite major tidying up and some maintenance that needed to be done and some other things that needed to be looked at for us to get a good price for our house. And it was good that it didn't go on. If we had been left to ourselves, it probably would have taken us a lot longer to get ready, and it would have been a harder process for us because we didn't have the time to do that either. So it was extremely helpful to have their help in planning all of that.
Yeah, and I think also the follow-up, just to make sure that we were doing the things that needed to get done as well, was very useful. That was interesting. I sort of had the expectation that all agents would try and twist your arm to go to auction, and so I wasn't surprised when the auction method was suggested to us. But when Peter and Grant took the time to say, hey, given your particular house, the market and the marketing that would go behind it, we really agreed that auction was the right process to go through, and that certainly in hindsight was definitely the right way to go.
Yeah, we'd also brought the house beforehand so that we had a definite goal in mind, and it gave us that short, sharp, and we didn't have time to waste, and so it was 4 weeks to get the house ready, it was 3 weeks in marketing, and then the auction. So it really gave us a definite date, whereas the longer that process went on, the more that house was going to slip beyond our reach. So auction did actually seem to be a good option for us.
Yeah, I think that definitely helped in terms of the vendor accepting our offer. They knew that we'd engaged Peter and Grant and that we had an auction date in mind, so they knew that the process was going to be completed within a certain period of time.
Peter and Grant kept in contact with us reasonably regularly. By regularly, when we needed help, we always got a phone call back really quickly. If it was, we were just ringing ad hoc during the day, and sometimes I'd ring them a couple of times a day just for tradespeople or just for a bit of advice or something. There was obviously, whenever anything happened, they would contact us pretty quick, and also we had a weekly meeting with a report. And usually every couple of days they'd just catch, especially in the preparation stage, they'd catch up and say, where are you, what else do you need? So it was really quite regular. So in the end, when they said leave it to us, leave the worrying to us, we were quite happy that to do that.
Yeah, I mean, Peter and Grant have a philosophy that, hey, if we have to ring them, then they're not doing their job in terms of communication, and they really did live up to that throughout the process. So, we were very happy with the level of communication. There was that formal once a week catch-up, which was good, just to touch base, and I think they gave us, honest feedback in terms of how things were going and what level of interest there was through the process. So.
I wasn't here for auction day. We went through a couple of days beforehand, and there was a plan, and there were papers signed, and there was preparation, and the auction process was all gone over with us, which was really quite nice. And then I left the scene, and I left it to Dave.
Yeah, so a couple of nights before the auction, Peter and Grant and the auctioneer Andrew North came round, and that was really useful for us to just talk us through the process, how auctions normally go, what sort of tactics are used, what sort of things may or may not happen. So we found that really useful. I was expecting at that stage that we might have some pressure to lower our reserve, but in fact that wasn't the case. They'd communicated throughout the process, and it was really just a continuation of those discussions and saying, okay, in terms of the auction, this is how things will go. In terms of the auction night itself, it was a little bit nerve-wracking. You wonder who's going to turn up and are they going to bid, but the auction night itself went really well. We were lucky it was a great evening like tonight, and the process went very well. For us, the key thing was being able to buy the house that we'd fallen in love with. So yes, we were able to achieve that. I think as vendors you maybe want even more, but no, we were very satisfied that we got a good price in the market. And that was part of, we knew that Peter and Grant had used all their contacts, the backup from Harcourts in terms of contacting all the people, all the marketing and effort that had gone on beforehand led to a great result, and so we were very pleased with how things went.
I was quite pleased too that with the auction process it just wasn't a matter of getting people over that reserve line. They got the best price for us that they could and worked very hard for us, so it didn't stop when people were there and they hit reserve. They still kept working for us to get us a good price for our house.
And I think that's a really good point. It wasn't just a matter of saying, hey, we know what your minimum price is and if we get that, that's okay. We felt that the whole team, Peter and Grant and the auctioneer Andrew, were working to get the best price for us.
Yep.
I would definitely recommend Peter and Grant, and I don't think we'll take 22 years to move again, but certainly to people we know, friends and family and other people that we would definitely recommend them in terms of selling a house for you.
I think selling a house can be a very stressful process. It's a big wrench. Having somebody with experience and to be able to give you good independent advice and then look after your interests, which we really felt they did, is quite important. So yeah, we would definitely recommend Peter and Grant to our friends and family.